All right, so in today's video, I have a very, very special treat for you. I'm bringing in one of my most trusted colleagues and one of my best buds, Aaron Benton, who is an absolute powerhouse in the mortgage space here in the Lowcountry. And he's going to get out his crystal ball and he's actually going to tell us what we have to look forward to possibly in 2025. So if you're interested in what's happening in the housing market, what's happening in mortgages in the near future, then don't go anywhere because we're getting after it right now. Do you want to know everything there is to know about the South Carolina Lowcountry, whether it's Bluffton, Beaufort, Hilton Head Island, or Jasper County? Then subscribe below and tap that bell for notifications so you'll be the first to know about everything happening here. My name is David Simcox, host of this channel and a local real estate agent. I get calls and emails every day from people just like you and you and you looking to make their move here, and I absolutely love it. So whether you're moving in 3 days, 3 months, or even 3 years, give me a call, send me an email, shoot me a text, or you can even book a Zoom call, all in the description below. So today I've got Aaron Benton. How are you doing, Aaron?
Thanks for having me, David. I'm doing very well.
Absolutely. So you guys might remember Aaron. He's been on this channel before. We did a golfing video one time out at Kalawasi. So a lot of my customers have used Aaron, and he is a very, very well-respected and trusted real estate mortgage advisor here in the Lowcountry. So real quick, background on you, Aaron. Where'd you come from and how'd you get into the mortgage business?
I was formerly a teacher at Hilton Head Island High School,
Yep.
And I made the plunge right to mortgage banking. So instead of teaching children, if you will, about math, I transitioned to adults.
Okay.
So still talking about numbers. I've been doing it for 7 years, and just cutting edge. I feel like I'm really on top of the market, understanding what's going on out there, which is allowing me to best advise clients.
Okay, sounds good. So this particular video is about what's going to happen in 2025, and everybody wants to know because there's some big things happening out there. I mean, we just went through an election and a lot of tension, a lot of speculation, and a lot of exciting things too. So I assume you brought your crystal ball with you so you can tell us what's going to happen. So what is the outlook for 2025? Like, what are prices going to do in your professional opinion?
Right. So nationally, Fannie Mae will say to you, roughly 2025 will see a 3.6% appreciation or increase. Locally, you know, the Beaufort County, the Jasper County market that we're in, you're seeing 6 to 8%.
Right.
I mean, we are shielded in regards to a lot of people are moving here, not from a, hey, I have to move here as a primary residence. We're getting people moving here as, this will be my primary residence in 2, 3, 4 years, right?
Yep.
They see the growth, they want to be a part of it, and we are getting a tremendous amount of people coming here. And so we are well above, locally, we are well above the national average in terms of growth. And as a result of supply and demand, right, we are seeing appreciating values more so than what you would see on the national level.
So what does that mean to people that are watching this channel? Maybe they're in New York or New Jersey or Ohio, or I even have people that watch over in Europe. You know, if they were thinking about retiring here, let's say in 3, 4, 5 years, and they know that this market is on an upward climb, you know, price-wise, what does that mean to them? What should they do?
I think you want to get your plan started sooner rather than later. I don't see a reason to hold off on buying. I mean, if we're going to say 6, 8% appreciation year over year, you're going to notice that these homes are going to go up significantly in value, and you're going to find yourself, I mean, even in this market right now where we could say the interest rates are higher than where they've been back in 20 and 2021, you start adding a 6% appreciation value year over year. I mean, we are talking about you're going to be saving money in the long term just on home price alone, because the difference in interest rate, whether we're talking of 1%, 2%, that's minor compared to a 6% or what have you year over year growth. So I would say if you're interested in this area at all, I think you should be proactive and you should look at buying or at least engaging in the idea sooner rather than later.
So another thing we were talking about at lunch, and some people do think about the idea of like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and buy now and maybe rent it out, and then I'm gonna move here when I retire in 3 to 5 years. And then other people are like, no, I'm gonna wait for the interest rate to come down. So one phenomenon that we were talking about at lunch was that right now you can buy homes on average in the MLS. Every neighborhood's a little different, but you can buy them for about 96 to 97% of the asking price. And if the interest rates come down, that's going to change, and people are going to start paying 100% or more of the asking price because of that increased demand. So not only are they potentially going to pay 6 or 12% more if they wait a year or 2 years just because of the appreciation, but because people are paying now full price 2 years from now, potentially, they might end up paying 15 or 20% more for that exact same home.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I do believe there is a cost to waiting, if you will. I mean, you've heard the cliche, right? You're going to marry the house and date the rate. I mean, we've heard that time and time again, but really the numbers don't lie. I mean, if interest rates right now are roughly high 6s on a primary residence, low 7s on a non-primary residence, again, there's other products out there that we'll talk about. But if we're looking and hoping to get rates back into the 5s, and we're saying, okay, that's roughly a 2%, 1.5% betterment, if you will, in rate, but home prices, I mean, we're talking now 6%. Even if we wait to the end of the year, if that full 6% comes to fruition, plus in also, as you were saying, instead of being able to get another 3% off the price in negotiation, let's do the math, 6% at the end of the year, 3% difference potentially from negotiating 3% off or having to pay full asking price. You've lost 9, you've gained maybe 1% or 2 in rate. I think that's still a net loss of 7.
Okay, so let's add one more factor because this is kind of unique to South Carolina, and I don't know the way this works back where you guys are watching from, but in our local market, you pay a higher tax rate if it's not your primary home. So if somebody's like, okay, I'm gonna lock in the price right now, and I'm gonna maybe rent it out and retire in 2 or 3 or 4 years, but you're gonna have to pay a higher tax rate, and it's about 2.5 times the amount. So if you're in Beaufort County, it's about 0.5% of the purchase price annually, roughly. If you're in Jasper County, it's about 1% of the purchase price annually. And then if it's your second home, basically double that and add a little bit to it. Would you say even when you factor that number in, it still makes sense to buy now as opposed to waiting 2, 3, 4 years?
I do, because I think the other part to take into consideration, again, I'm not a tax advisor or an accountant, but understand that if someone's going to rent the property out, that is a deduction that individuals are taking on their personal tax return.
Okay.
So yes, there is taxes there. However, it's a write-off on their Schedule E. And so I still think that yes, you're paying 2.5. There's no doubt about it. But again, 2.5 times the taxes, yes, it's a number. But if we are going under the 6 to 8% appreciation value, which is what we have seen recently in our market, I still think you're money ahead. Now, the beauty of South Carolina, if you will, is those taxes are adjusted or reassessed, if you will. They can be reassessed every year. So what that means is if you're going to buy the house now, and it is not your primary residence for, say, the next year or 2, yes, you will pay the higher tax rate, but that doesn't mean you're locked into that higher tax rate for eternity. It just means the minute you move here, file your taxes in the state of South Carolina, move your driver's license over, apply for the lower rate, and then you're going to ultimately get what you want just down the road, and you would have probably bought at a home price cheaper than what you would see later on.
Right, so if you were buying, say, a $500,000 house in Beaufort County, let's say as a primary resident, you'd be paying like $2,500 in taxes. But if you're buying it as a secondary home, you're paying about maybe $7,000, $7,500. So it's costing you about $5,000 more per year for that. But over 3 years, that's still only $15,000. And potentially that home could have gone up by $30,000, $40,000, or more. Okay, so let's talk about rates. Right now, we're filming this at the very end of January 2025. What are the feds saying? What are the rates? And do you think they're going to come down in 2025 in your professional opinion?
Right. So we've had quite a phenomenon, right? Because at the tail end, so Q4 of 2024, there was this wait and see. We're going to potentially new president. There is a new president. What is going to happen? There was this uncertainty there. So as a result, now we have a new president, and there's still uncertainty. We don't know exactly where the rates are headed. What I can tell you is that yesterday, Jerome Powell, Federal Reserve, said we put a pause to rate cuts. Why? Uncertainty. They don't know what is going to happen in the moment with government spending, so they're going to pull back a little bit. What does that mean? That means long term. We're going to talk 2025, maybe a 0.25% rate. Again, don't have the crystal ball, but what the experts are saying, roughly 0.25% rate drop in 2025. You might start to see some additional rate drops in 2026. At the moment, I would say to you, 30-year fixed conventional loan, high sixes, potentially low sevens if credit is a little less than desirable. VA loans, 100% financing, you're going to see 6.25, 6.625 potentially if credit is less than desirable. And FHA is 3.5% down, roughly 6.5%. So those are all where we are now. Now, there are also other products, which I believe we want to talk about later on, but we can dive into now if you want.
Yeah, perfect. So if somebody's not going conventional or FHA or VA or 30-year fixed, what are some other options and strategies? I'd say high level, or let's say like kind of high level, and then even getting a little more into the weeds for a lot of the viewers of this channel are retirees and people nearing retirement. So there are some other options for them as well, tapping into 401ks and all the different things that you can do. So let's just talk like basic, and then let's talk like maybe, college level.
Right. So one of the options right now if we're going to talk solely about interest rate, right, there is adjustable rate mortgages, which I know have maybe a little negative connotation to them because of what happened in 2008. Understand government regulation, things have changed, and those are not the black eye that maybe some people think. We have product right now, the rate's fixed for the first 3 years, 5 years, or 7 years. Those are lower than market. And what I'm saying by that is, as a primary perfect scenario, you're gonna see something in the high fives, which is significantly less than what I just said a moment ago, hovering around high sixes. Second home, you're gonna see something in the low sixes.
Okay.
So those adjustable rates can certainly help save money, if you will, in the short term. Now, you had asked what kind of strategies would we're gonna talk about what strategies would someone use to qualify for a mortgage. Because so many times I get phone calls and they say, well, I've retired. I've put in all this work through my life, and now all of a sudden I don't have income, right? Maybe I'm making Social Security, I have a pension, but gee, now I wanna carry a second house. But Aaron, I have all this money in the bank. Surely I'm good for the money, or good to repay the loan, if you will. And there are solutions. So I'm gonna start with the easiest. If you're of retirement age, 59 and a half years old, many people set up an IRA distribution. And again, we can go into details, but I'm saying that your IRA can be used as an income stream to qualify. Because mortgage banking, what it looks at is monthly debts versus monthly incomes, and that IRA can be an income source that we are able to use to qualify you. The other product that is also very exciting, again, no age limit, not 59 and a half, any person. So imagine, hey, kickstarting my plan, I've been successful, I'm 50 years old, and I just want to get that place in Hilton Head, but I just sold my business, if you will. I've walked into a giant pot of money, but I got no income yet. Again, we have a product, it's called asset depletion. What you do is you take the asset, you divide by 60 months, that's just the mathematical formula, and that's an income figure that we can use to qualify. So from a product perspective of, hey, David, I'd like to buy a house, but I have no income, not necessarily true. Mortgage banking guidelines allow you to set up different ways to be able to qualify for that home. So what I would say is, it never hurts to make the call. Let the professionals handle it.
Yep.
Let them render their opinion. You've probably worked very hard your entire life, and you're sitting on a pot of gold, if you will, and we can turn that pot of gold into income to get you to buy a house.
And on the IRA distribution, it's allocated over 37 months?
37 months.
Okay, but there is an age limit on that.
59 and a half, retirement age, unless it's an inherited IRA.
Okay.
Because someone who inherits an IRA, they take over the same rules, if you will, and stipulations that the person who previously had it. So, for instance, if my dad had an IRA and he was 70 years old, and I eventually inherited that, I would be able to set up a distribution, even though I'm not 59 and a half, because the rules of that IRA would just be passed on to me.
Okay, so let's talk about demand from the buyer side. So what are you seeing in terms of demand, and what do you foresee happening in 2025?
Goes back to kind of the quarter last year, 2023, tail end of it. Just a lot of people sitting on the fence waiting. Just uncertainty, what's going to happen with the election, where is the economy going? And now in 2025, what I'm seeing is the election has settled. People are in a position where I've waited long enough. I mean, the rates have been in this 6-7% range, if you will, for the last 2 years. And at some point, my dream, my goals, my life plan, if you will, isn't going to be put on pause anymore. And I'm seeing an uptick, if you will. I'm seeing whether it's retirees who say, I've done this for long enough and I want to move here, or I want to get out of the snow. I'm seeing people that are building a plan. I'm also seeing first-time home buyers or move-up buyers that just says, you know what, the 3-bedroom isn't big enough for us anymore. And so they're waiting on the sidelines. They're starting to come in. I'm getting more and more people. That means there's more competition out there. Now, locally speaking, we see a really big pop around President's Day. That is February. That is when the weather here becomes, I mean, it's 65 and sunny out right now, but mid-February, you're going to be in the 70s, and that's when people start to come here, and they fall in love with the place, right? Not only from I could live here, but that is also the start of our rental market. So if someone is looking to buy a place and rent it out, they don't have to inherit those down months, if you will, those winter months of where rents are a little bit less, and maybe there's a little bit of vacancy. They get in February. The season starts to kick off, and they can start churning rental income basically from the date of closing.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing a large uptick in demand just because of the pent-up demand, if you will, that we incurred over the prior 2 quarters, if you will.
Everybody's been sitting on the sideline waiting to see if the rates are going to come down, and there's so many people sitting on the sidelines, and now the rates have been where they've been long enough that I think people are starting to accept the fact that this is the new normal. And people buy houses for, a bunch of different reasons. Either they get married, they get divorced, they have kids, the kids move out, now they're empty nesters and they want to downsize, job relocation, all the things that happen, life events, and that stuff doesn't get put, that doesn't stop. People still need to buy homes, and I think a lot of the people that were waiting and hoping that something would change are realizing this is the world we live in, this is what's going on, and like you said, I'm not going to put my life on hold waiting for something that may or may not ever happen.
That's correct. And they're also coming with a long-term vision, right? A hope that rates will come down in the future. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that is what the Federal Reserve is saying. The Federal Reserve is saying we fully anticipate rates will come down. So yes, they're gambling a little bit because they don't control the rates. There's still a little bit of uncertainty out there, but at the end of the day, if I have 3 kids and I'm sitting in a 2-bedroom house, it's probably time to upgrade.
Yeah, absolutely. Or if you've worked 40, 50 years and you put your time in and you've earned the right to retire, I mean, you've only got so much time, you've only got so much money, and at some point you say, what's more valuable? I'd rather get down here and I would rather start living the lifestyle, the low country lifestyle, playing golf, playing pickleball, doing all the fun stuff, joining the clubs, getting part of the social environment, enjoying all the festivals and all the farmers markets and everything else that Bluffton has. And I don't want to sit around and wait for 2 more years for like the stars to align possibly. All right, last question. I know your time is valuable. So a lot of people are moving here from out of the area, and they have their mortgage professionals that they have worked with and have earned their trust back in their hometowns. And I always, advise them to speak with a local real estate professional. Usually I'm sending them to you because you've earned my business and you've earned my trust. And the reason for that is not because it's for my good or your good, but it's actually for their good, because there are a lot of nuances to this particular market. And you could end up in some hot water if your mortgage professional back home doesn't know those nuances. So can you speak to that and just tell me, what are some of the unique things about this market that they could get themselves in trouble if they didn't really realize what was going on?
Right. So this area, I would say we've already touched one of the big factors, right, is the primary versus non-primary tax rate.
Yeah.
If you buy as a primary, the taxes are almost comical compared to what you would see in the Northeast, Midwest, if you will. Non-primary residence, like we said, it's about 2.5 times greater. That's a real number that you should be aware of. The other piece here is our HOAs, right? As you drive around Bluffton, Hilton Head, some of Beaufort, some of Ridgeland, some of Hardyville, you have these HOAs that they vary, right? They're going to go all the way from $60 a month to $18,000, $20,000 a year. I mean, so it can absolutely be a deal breaker, right? I've come across deals where lenders just simply did not realize that there was an extra $1,200 a month, if you will, in an association fee. That counts as a real debt and a real calculation that we have to consider. The other one is the actual HOA transfer fee or initiation fee. The numbers are continuing to climb. Like that seems to be the idea of this call or this meeting is just, wow, we have seen the cost of everything kind of increase, right? We're talking about appreciation of homes. Well, I've seen the initiation fees continue to go up, right? I'm talking that sometimes it's extreme. I mean, sometimes it's $70,000 to buy in. Other times it's 0.5% of the purchase price. So it changes, but nevertheless, when I talk to people, there's two real numbers that they got to be aware of. They got to know what their monthly payment is, and they need to know what their upfront cash is. HOA plays a role in both of those because we know that the HOA is going to charge them potentially on a monthly basis, and we know many times there's going to be this initiation or, hey, hello, welcome to the neighborhood fee, if you will.
Yeah.
The other part, flood insurance. We live, Hilton Head's an island. Bluffton has coastal areas as well. Beaufort has coastal areas. I mean, the May River runs through some parts of I believe, Ridgeland, where we can see flood insurance.
Yeah.
You put it all together, that's an added cost that you just have to take into consideration. Last but not least is condos, right? Yeah. Condos here, you're interested in buying a condo, there's an association fee, sometimes there's a regime fee on top of that, sometimes there's an insurance assessment on top of that. The fees can certainly add up, and if you do not have somebody at the front lines who can understand that all of these variables, if you will, could be reality, unfortunately, many times you get hit at the end about 3 days before closing, and either A, the costs are significantly higher than what you thought, or you find out even worse, hey, I don't qualify to make this purchase, and obviously that's the worst nightmare.
Yeah.
So my suggestion would be, of course you want to talk to someone local who understands the market. It's never a knock on the individual that you've built a relationship over the years. It's never a knock on you personally and your personal finances. It's simply the fact that the collateral, the homes, the area that we live in here in the Lowcountry is just many times different than what you were accustomed to.
And not just that, certain buildings are, we call them unwarrantable or non-warrantable. So you could fall in love with a condo in Hilton Head and your lender could say, yeah, you're golden, you qualify, you're great, your money's fine, you qualify for the loan. But they don't understand that based on the occupancy of short-term renters, because we're a tourist destination, that after you get above a certain percentage of short-term rentals in that building, it becomes what they call an unwarrantable or non-warrantable building. Mm-hmm. And a lot of national lenders won't touch it. You won't find out till the very end that that's even an issue until they go through the final underwriting. But right off the bat which buildings are, financeable and which ones aren't. And you have special loan products for some of the buildings that a lot of the lenders won't touch. So that on the front end. Absolutely. I mean, non-warrantable, there are definitely a few regular offenders, if you will, that we know. Non-warrantable just simply means that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which is the government arm that securitizes mortgages, they're not going to lend, if you will, securitize mortgages attached to a condominium complex that, like David says, sometimes it's investor concentration, sometimes it's timeshares being prevalent. It's the idea of hotel-like features, where hotel-like features being a front desk or things, they want to stay away from that transitivity piece. Now that doesn't mean that you can certainly short-term rent these out individually. Mm-hmm. They just don't want the condo association acting as a hotel, right? The front desk. Yeah. The beauty is we have products for this because we're local. So when someone called me yesterday, they asked, and it was absolutely a condominium that had timeshares, and we had the product that I could say, this is the product. Yes, the interest rate is slightly higher than what you probably thought it was going to be, but I can tell you I can actually deliver and execute on this loan
and I don't need to trip you up during the process.
Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot here. I have a question I didn't prepare for you. I didn't actually tell you about.
I love it.
And so I'm just going to throw you a curveball. The name of this video was like predicting the future, and I asked you if you had your crystal ball. What's something that you think could happen in 2025, but maybe, you're not sure it's actually going to happen? Like if you had to go out on a limb and say, I think this is possible, but not 100%. That way, if people go back and watch this 3 months, 6 months, or a year from now, they can say, he got it right, or no, he didn't. Anything that you think is kind of like a long shot, that you think it's within reasonable?
I believe that our market could explode.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is we've been talking nationally 3.6% appreciation. There is a very large pent-up demand that I could see people diving into this market 2 feet. And we saw that during COVID, right? There were people who saw opportunity. They saw that interest rates were at a historically low level. They saw that our area here in the Lowcountry was relatively undervalued, if you will, at the time compared to places in Miami and South Florida and other tourist destinations, if you will. I think that we have certainly climbed in terms of value, but I can see, every time I answer the phone, if you will, or I should say on a daily basis, I'm getting calls from Chicago, New York, Boston, DC. They all want a piece of this area. So if you start to see interest rates creep down a little bit, it's just an added incentive to say, you know what, that condominium or that house is very reasonably priced compared to what we're used to at home.
Yeah.
When you start putting into consideration taxes, insurance, and so on. I see there could potentially be a pop simply because of all the individuals that were sitting on the sidelines waiting. You're going to couple that waiting with just natural life, if you will, what we talked about, and I think you could see a influx of demand, if you will.
I think you're right, and I have a different reason for saying that. I've noticed in the past year, and I won't say any names because I want you guys to call me as a buyer's agent, but all the brokerages, like high-end brokerages that you see on Netflix and all the high-end television shows, they have all opened offices here in Bluffton in the past year. And I'm not saying any names, but if you watch Netflix and you love, the reality TV real estate shows, think of the 3 most popular personalities that you've seen on TV in real estate. All 3 of them have opened an office here in Bluffton in the past year. So they're onto something. They know something's happening and they want a piece of it. But now, if people want to speak with you, how do they get in touch with you?
Best way is phone number.
Okay.
843-505-5623. Email is the letter A, Benton, B as in boy, E, N as in Nancy, T-O-N, at Try, T-R-Y, North Point, NORTHPOINT.com. A Benton at trynorthpoint.com.
Okay.
Phone is best, 843-505-5623.
All right. Well, thank you for being a trusted partner. Thank you for being a good friend. Keep up the good work, and thank you for sharing your insights with our viewers today.
Thank you for having me, David. Pleasure as always.
All right, thank you. All right, guys, thank you so much for staying till the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed spending this time with myself and Aaron. I hope you learned something about the real estate market and the mortgage market here, and we'll see if we're right about the future. You can come back in a month or 6 months or a year and comment down below and tell us if we nailed it or if we were off the mark. But either way, appreciate you spending your time watching this video. And if you want to stay up to date with the latest and greatest happening here, be sure and like, subscribe, and tap that bell for notifications so you'll be the first to know every time we drop a new video. And if you want help finding your own Lowcountry lifestyle, give me a call, send me an email, shoot me a text, or even book a Zoom call, all in the description below. And again, I hope to meet you in person at some point, but if not, I hope to at least see you on the next video.